It's time to take a journey through Sig Daddy's mind on Sig Daddy's Wrestling Show. Here's Sig Daddy.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Sig Daddy's Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Sig Daddy, and it is the AEW Full Gear review. AEW Full Gear took place last night. It emanated from Royal Farms Arena in Baltimore, and boy, it was a pretty good show. It started out with Britt Baker versus B. Priestley, and This was a kind of physical match, kind of a sloppy a little bit at times, but we got it with the physicality and the feud, which then with the concussion angle where actually B. Priestley legit concussed Britt Baker in their match back at Fyter Fest, if I'm correct, but it was sloppy at times, but it was a decent match nonetheless. Britt Baker got the win there with lockjaw. And I wish they would have attacked the head a little more on this match. I felt as if they could have done that, targeted it, at least being in a safe way, I'll say. But it was more of a back-targeting thing with Priestley there. But it was nice to see Britt Baker get a win. And I think this was one of Baker's best showings yet. I'm going to give it a C+. But it put on a decent pre-show match, and honestly, when I go over this later on, when I go over one of the matches on the card later on, I really think this match should have been on the card instead of the match I'm talking about later. But I still thought that was decent for a pre-show match, C+, and I thought it should have been on the main show. But Brandy and Kong then show up post-match with Priestley in the ring. Kong hitting a spinning back fist, and then takes off the glove, hands the knife to Brandy, hits her implant buster, and then Kong, as you saw her out there, you saw her kind of waistline, she had like pieces of hair, and then we realized, she carries trophies around from each of her opponents, cutting off a piece of their hair. I think this is the best way to utilize Brandy, especially in the women's division. I know she's not as good in ring as some other people, but she could be a very good manager for Awesome Kong. Then it was the main show starting out. We started out with a hot one. Santana and Ortiz, Proud and Powerful versus the Young Bucks, kind of leading with that storyline between the Elite against the Inner Circle. And tonight, it was not the Elite's night. It was definitely the Inner Circle's night. Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton and Gibson were ringside, and they eventually get involved after the match. But there was some awesome selling in this, some awesome kind of storytelling tidbits where Nick Jackson was attacking, was kind of on fire or whatever, and he kicked the post, and that caused him to have leg problems the rest of the match, and it actually caused them not to be able to hit the Meltzer driver late in the match as Nick went up for the springboard and kind of fell over, and that kind of really costed them the match. He couldn't kind of overcome his injury, and then they hit the Ortiz and Santana hit their street sweeper, which is like a powerbomb neck breaker combo. But Nick, when actually Ortiz and Santana's selling actually at the end of this match was absolutely fantastic. There was one time where Nick Jackson was running off, and Ortiz blocked something, and then Jackson hit a super kick on him, and he like fell backwards, and then Ortiz just fell straight on his face. I like that selling there, but I give this match a B+. I really enjoyed the psychology of it, and it was a nice build to the finish where Nick couldn't overcome his injury, like I said, but a really good tag team match to start the show, and it was the right move to have Ortiz and Santana get the win. But I wasn't sure about this post-match stuff with the Rock and Roll Express coming up, but it was a lot of fun where Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson come in to make the save, and Morton hits a freaking Canadian Destroyer on Santana, and then a dive out on Sammy Guevara and Ortiz. It was entertaining stuff, to say the least, at that. I don't know if those guys should have been, Santana and Ortiz in the Inner Circle should have been getting beat up like that. I was kind of wanting them to kind of establish their dominance and such, but they did it in other ways on the night, so it was kind of harmless fun there. Up next was Hangman Adam Page versus Pac. These guys have tied series-wise 1-1. This match was a lot different from the first match. It was normally you see the high-flying stuff and the solid offense, the high-flying offense and fast-paced action of Santana and Ortiz and the Young Bucks, those tag teams. But in this Hangman Page Pac match, it was very, very hard-hitting, physical both ways. Pac toyed with him for a while before missing a Phoenix Splash, and Page got his comeback going. Hangman hit a beautiful moonsault to the outside, landing straight on his feet. And then there was a time where Pac's sitting outside, and he's sitting in a chair, and Pac gets hit. Pac lures Hangman in, and he hits a brainbuster on the Page on the outside. It looked really, really rough. But I really liked this match, though. It was very, very fun. The finish, Pac missing with a black arrow as he tried. Then he went for a low blow, which distracted with the ref distracted, and Page caught it. Hit a big forearm clothesline and then hit the dead eye to get the 3 count. I like this match a lot. I like that it was a lot different from the initial match between the Bucks and Proud and Powerful. I'm going to give it a B+. And it was just, style-wise, I liked it a lot. And then it was a nice callback to the previous matches where Pac's been getting an advantage with the ref distracted, hitting a blow on people. But it was also nice to see Page get his win back after he took the pin on Dynamite last week in that tag match with Guevara and Page and Guevara and Jericho. But yeah, it was a really good match. I really enjoyed it. Very physical match between Page and Pac. And Pac that's only his first loss, and he's gonna be back. He'll come back. He'll get some big victories here soon. It's just I think they're trying to groom some faces to get some challengers to Jericho, because there are not a whole lot of viable face challengers right now to Chris Jericho and his world championship. Darby Allin is kind of on the outside looking in at this point right now, but there's another guy that I'll mention later on in this that I think will be the next in line for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. And the one match next, this was the kind of throwaway match of the night, in my opinion. It was Shawn Spears with Tully Blanchard versus Joey Janela. This build-up kind of stemmed from Dark last week, where Spears tried to cut Janela's tongue out with a pair of pliers. And then Spears on Dynamite this last week tried to injure Cutler after the match. But it was a physical match. It was just not my thing. And the build-up, there wasn't enough build-up to this. And it doesn't seem like Spears is going to be that star everyone thinks he's going to be here in AEW, and Janela keeps taking loss after loss, which I don't get. I thought he was kind of supposed to be one of the young stars in this, but it was nice to see Spears get a win, though. Spears needed a win. He hasn't had really a bigger win and it was also on pay-per-view, so that was good for him. But really, this match didn't do a whole lot for me, and that was kind of a bathroom break match in my opinion, but I'm going to give it a C. Felt like it was better suited for the pre-show, as I mentioned earlier. I thought Baker and Priestley had at least more of a build-up to their match and had some kind of almost real-life drama involved. But there was more of a story with the Priestley-Baker match, and I thought that should have been on the main show, while this would have been better suited for the pre-show. Following that was the triple threat tag for the AEW Tag Team Championships. Some sloppy offense in this one. It's kind of a sloppy offense early on in this match. When stuff started to break down and everyone kind of was in the match, it started to get a lot better. And man, I gotta say this, Rey Fenix, he is impressive. I'd love him to see, I'd be a guy, I'd love to see him get like a chance at singles action and actually a world championship match sometime here in the future. But I know he's with Pentagon in this tag team, and they're still going to be building off that story. The post match really adds to this, that it's going to be Lucha Brothers and SCU later on, but keeping with this match. But SCU got the job done. But yeah, once stuff broke down in this match, it was very, very fun. SCU got the win and retained their tag team championships against Private Party and the Lucha Brothers. But the Lucha Brothers would attack SCU after they pinned Private Party. They'd beat them down, lights would go out, and then we see another Pentagon Jr., and it would be Christopher Daniels. Daniels coming out, trying to get some revenge after he got beat down and injured going into that tag team tournament. So this will lead to more stuff between the Lucha Brothers and the SCU. I'm going to give that match a B grade, but as I mentioned, it was sloppy at first, but once it broke down and all the teams got involved, it was a lot of fun. But for some reason, I noticed the finish, it fell flat with me. I don't know, but they got it done with their finishing SCU later. SoCal Uncensored did, but it just seemed kind of flat. The finish fell flat, but I thought it was a good match nonetheless. I was going to give it a B, and it's nice to see Daniels back, and it's interesting to see what he's going to be doing once he gets more involved in the matches here soon with the Lucha Brothers as they continue their feud. Up next was the AEW Women's World Championship match between Rio and Emi Sakura. This is built up as teacher versus student. There was not a whole lot of build on it on TV. At least AEW did a nice job giving us a video package to explain this match. But I thought it was a pretty good match on this. But Rio got the win. She retained her AEW Women's World Championship. These two showed really good chemistry in this match. There was a ref screw-up that kind of took some stuff away for me, took a little bit away for me. As they were counting, as Sakura was getting that pin, Sakura got a victory roll. The ref did count to 3, but he did acknowledge it. They did do a good job of kind of disguising that, and Rio getting her roll up and getting a win, kind of an emotional embrace after the match. I was going to give that a B-, but ref screw up aside, it was a good match, but the official screw up kind of took away a bit for me. And I just want to address this. I wish they do more with the women. I know Kenny Omega's in charge of the women for AEW, but we haven't really gotten a whole lot of story with the women. We get that Rio's kind of the resilient champion and stuff, but we haven't built up really any viable challengers recently. I know Awesome Kong coming in, they're doing more with her than they have done with a lot of the women in this, women in AEW so far. I just wish they would do a little more to give us, some more meat on the bone with the women, trying to give us some background and some kind of storylines for like Rio, because she hasn't really had a whole lot of she hasn't had any storylines really since she's won the title, and it'd be nice to see her actually have a story with somebody instead of just kind of putting matches together week after week. And that leads me to the AEW World Heavyweight Championship match. It was technically the main event, but it wasn't really the main event. But I had to give this 2 watches. Bear with me for a second. At first, I watched this and I didn't enjoy it that much. I did enjoy it, but it was like, okay, it felt a little draggy to me. It took a little bit. I looked at the internet. I saw there was some high praise for it, and I was like, maybe I give this a second chance and give it a rewatch and see what people were thinking when they looked at this match. And after the second watch, it was really, really pretty good. Pretty dang good. good. And Cody, he's very good with the storytelling. He sold the ribs in this match and sold his where he got cut at the beginning of the match going for that dive. But I thought after a second watch, I realized this match was very, very, very good. I like the little kind of touches there where Dean Malenko's ringside. Dean Malenko, Arn Anderson, Great Muta are ringside, and Jericho gets involved with Great Muta at the beginning of the match. Not Great Muta. Dean Malenko at the beginning of the match. I like that little psychological thing because Jericho and Malenko back in the day, they had a huge rivalry back in WCW. But I like the weight belt kind of thing Jericho threw at Cody. It was kind of a wink and kind of insulting him like he did with that promo just this last week, which was absolutely gold, which was a parody of what Cody's video package was. But I liked the involvement here. I liked the Cody using his influences in his dad, Dustin, and then also DDP. He used all those people's moves in this match, trying to get him his first world championship in AEW. As you already know, he's won world championships in both Ring of Honor and technically NWA. He's won the 10 pounds of gold before. But I liked it when they got that dive. That dive was really a turning point in this match. And Jericho would dominate, and you didn't realize at the beginning, but I realized this after the second watch. I was like, oh, they're focusing on the rib work, and I really like that. As Jericho, every time after Cody would try to come back, and almost every single time, Cody would get stopped by a move targeting the ribs. And I really enjoyed that psychological aspect of the match. And he's kind of going after that midsection as Cody landed on that along with his face, which that looked very, very scary because he almost landed straight on his head. But I like the Jake Hager involvement in this match too. Jake Hager's kind of that wild card in the match. He kept getting involved without the ref looking, and eventually it paid off to Hager getting kicked out of the match by Aubrey Edwards as Cody was doing a roll-up attempt and got punched in the face after Jericho kicked out, and then Edwards kicks him out of the match, and MJF gets beat up for a second. But this crowd was loving this late. I really think they enjoyed this. And that second watch was really a great help for me in understanding why people love this match, and it made me love this match too. But I watched it and I really enjoyed it. The comebacks being stopped by Jericho, I really enjoyed that by going back to the midsection. His mom being involved in it, because I know Jericho made fun of Dusty in the lead up to this, and it was nice to see Cody's mom get involved and actually drop an F-bomb on him, slapping him twice. Thought that was nice. And but I liked the closing stretch of this, actually. Jericho was beating him down with the belt after he hit a code breaker as Cody was trying to go for that beautiful disaster kick. And then Jericho, he keeps getting involved with the ref. Him and Aubrey Edwards have kind of been having issues because he had issues with her during the Hangman Page match. Also, Jericho was pushing the ref and almost got beat at one time with an inside cradle. There was also a part where Cody goes up top. He goes for that Hurricane Rana on the top rope, and Jericho catches him in the walls of Jericho. Always love that move. And Cody gets to the ropes, and that's when Jericho pushes the ref, and he gets the roll-up. Cody gets the roll-up and almost pins Jericho. And MJF, as you know, he's at ringside this whole entire match. We know that the turn is coming. We just don't know when it's going to be. And then the finish with Jericho getting the Lion Tamer back in. And he gets it deep. He's stomping on Cody's head. MJF's like beside himself. He's like, I don't know if I can do this. I can't watch my friend get beat up here. And you know it's all a ruse by the end of it. But Jericho wins by the throwing in of the towel by MJF. So a kind of a submission without Cody submitting. Cody's upset after the match. And then it led to MJF finally kicking him in the nuts. And Cody is shocked, and the crowd just absolutely loses it and just absolutely just destroys MJF, just booing the crap out of him and stuff. And actually MJF, as he's going up the ramp, he gets water thrown at him by a fan. I don't know if that was a planted fan or not, but it's a visual that will always be remembered, as this was the time that MJF turned on Cody and gave him and costing him his only world championship opportunity in AEW, because he will, as he mentioned in his impassioned promo, which was absolutely awesome on Dynamite, he will never challenge for the AEW World Championship again. And he didn't do it he didn't die on his own sword. He actually, his supposed friend, threw in the towel, and he was not in for the friendship for him and Cody. He was just in for himself. And he didn't want Cody to win the world championship. And I don't know, does this mean MJF's going to join Inner Circle, or is it more of MJF going to be a lone wolf, as he kind of is already, and he kind of can't get along with a whole lot of people, as he's got heat in quotes, and no one likes him pretty much. It was like back in the day with Ken Anderson and Impact Wrestling, which that's not a great comparison, but no one liked him supposedly backstage. It was, and as a work. But yeah, MJF got a lot of heat here. That towel throw in just got him. He got him the initial heat, and then when the nut shot came in, it was the huge heat, as Cody was the big fan favorite coming into this match, and his supposed best friend turns on him. But overall, this match and segment, I'm going to give it an A grade. Initially, I gave it a C+, as I was not into the towel throw-in, but I understood it as I watched it the second time. So I thought the match was great. Crowd, as I mentioned, was very, very hot, late, really good storytelling, and had a good slow build with great psychology, as Jericho would continuously go back to that midsection and back to the head. But the MJF, it was a nice build up to that MJF towel throw in, and showing concern for his friend, but it wasn't really concern, as he was in for himself. And I like that it led to that post match angle, and as we expected, we got that MJF turn. But I like that. It's a great way to get heat on MJF, and it was a really, really good match. Not quite up to the standard of the Dustin and Cody match back at Double or Nothing, but it was a very, very good match. Another great bit of storytelling done by Cody, as Cody's becoming a really good storyteller, and his matches are very, very good example of good storytelling. And then it was the next match, the Lights Out match, unsanctioned, Moxley versus Kenny Omega. And boy, did we have a lot of weapons, and boy, this was very, very, very long. And it was a fun match. There were some certain things I didn't like about this match. First, they took forever to get to the weapons spots, where I swear they'd spend half the time looking for the weapons. But this was a fun match once they got to the weapon stuff, and I know it's kind of building off the feud. Some dangerous spots here and there in the match, into the barbed wire. I thought that was kind of dumb that the guys were trying to grab the Moxley and Omega out with their hands and such, and try to pull out with the barbed wire without any gloves or anything on, which was kind of dumb to me and stuff. And I liked how the little bit of storytelling where Omega's trying to get his buddies out to get him that barbed wire kind of netting, and I think they mentioned like being the elite, that Omega has kind of lost his mind and lost his way, and this he ended up losing this match by kind of an elevated Dirty Deeds, which is the paradigm shift now on the hardwood. Yeah, this is a weapons-filled match, kind of a John Moxley old school match from when he was back on the indies. It was a fun match. It was way too long, and I want Omega to go back to his normal matches and stuff, and But I thought it was a good match to close the show. Honestly, I thought it would make more sense to have that Cody MJF, not Cody MJF, but the Cody MJF and Jericho thing kind of closing the show, because that would have been more of a better lasting memory of this show, except as the final piece of the show, instead of this Moxley Omega match. I get the unsanctioned nature of it. They want to keep that at the end of the match as it's lights out technically, but I really think you can do this match on the main show instead of doing it at the end, where I thought Cody and Jericho should have been at the end, because it was a really good match, and also had a great angle at the end with MJF finally getting that turn. With that being said, there was a lot of weapons in this match, and glass, barbed wire, everything. They brought out pretty much anything and everything. The mousetrap thing it didn't click with me, but I'm gonna give this match, the match between Moxley, unsanctioned match between Moxley and Omega AB. As I mentioned, there was a bunch of weapon shots. I respected that these two guys put themselves through the ringer with all the weaponry. It was a good fight. But how does Omega come back from this? Because he's taken a lot of losses here recently, and the Elite did not get one single win during this show, except actually they did get one win. Paige was the lone winner in this show, and the Bucks, Cody, and then Omega all lost their matches. And what this makes me feel like is the only logical person to face with Moxley winning tonight, which didn't really count towards his record, but I think Moxley is the only viable contender for the AEW World Championship. Honestly, in my opinion, he's the only guy that makes sense right now, because he's not really a heel, he's a face, he's kind of a anti-hero, we'll say, as he kind of goes to the beat of his own drum. But I think Moxley's the next guy in line for an AEW World Championship shot, because the only guys that are actually in line right now are really heels, which would be Pac, who just ate a loss here recently, and Paige. It's a little too early for him to get his world title shot back, and Allen, he's got to get some wins here, some bigger wins here moving forward before he gets his next shot at the title. But that's it for the review of this show. And the overall grade, I give AEW Full Gear, I'll give it a B+. I enjoyed the show for the most part. I didn't think it was as good as All Out, but it was pretty dang close once you think about the Cody match. But one thing I could have done without is that Spears match. As I mentioned earlier, I really think that could have been left on the pre-show and bring Priestley and Baker on as the main match on the main show. On the main show, I mean. And one thing I'd like to say about this was the pay-per-view was just a bit too long for me. I know it was about 3 hours and 45 minutes. You can cut down a little bit of the time with that, and honestly, you could have cut out the Spears and Janela match, and then also cut about 5 or 10 minutes off that Moxley and Kenny Omega match at the end of the show. I thought that match, the Omega and Paige match, was a little bit too long, but if I'd go back and watch any of these matches, there's really four matches that I'd really want you to go see, and that's the Mox and Omega match for the most part, actually. It was pretty good. Paige and Pac, Bucks versus Proud and Powerful, and then also the one you have to see is Cody versus Jericho. Expert storytelling, very fun to watch. Slow build, but when it built up to the end, it was very, very nice, and we got the great post-match angle with MJF finally getting his full turn. He was already healed, but he turned on his friend there. But I thought this show as a whole was pretty good. The Spears match we just could have done without, but anyway, it was a really good show. Another good showing there by AEW in their pay-per-views, and I'm excited for the future. Don't know what's coming up. I'm actually going to an AEW, actually going probably 2 AEW shows. We'll see. Maybe one in Chicago, one in Indy coming here soon. But I'm looking forward to the future, and it's really going to be interesting to see Cody and MJF, how that story goes along, and then the story with Daniels and Scorpio Sky and Kazarian against the Lucha Brothers. But that's it for the review of this show. But I'll just give you a quick recap. C+ for the Baker Priestley match. B+ for the Santana Ortiz versus Young Bucks match. B+ for Pac and Hangman Page. C for the Spears and Janela match. Triple threat tag for the AEW World Tag Championships. A B. The championship match with Rio and Emi Sakura, I give it a B-. And then also the Jericho-Cody match, I give that an A. And then the unsanctioned match between Moxley and Omega, I'm going to give that a B. And that brings me to the overall grade of a B+. And I'd like to thank you all for listening once again to this show, Sig Daddy's Wrestling Show. And if you haven't already, make sure to follow me on the socials, Facebook and Twitter, at Sig Daddy Wrestle. And also and make sure to subscribe to my podcast if you haven't already on Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, Sig Daddy's Wrestling Show. Make sure to tune in next week as I do my weekend review, where I go over AEW Dynamite, NWA Power, and Monday Night Raw, give you my opinions on those, and give you my rankings for those shows 1, 2, and 3 to kind of give you an idea of what I preferred that week and what I thought was the best show of the 3 for the week. But until next time, this is Sig Daddy signing off, thanking you all for listening once again, and so